Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 4.2. I've entitled this video, Colonial Government. This video is going to cover pages 92 to 95. English Principles of Government. When English colonists came to North America, they brought with them English ideas about government. These ideas had been developing in England over hundreds of years. By the 1600s, the English people had won political liberties, such as trial by jury, that were largely unknown elsewhere. At the heart of the English system were two principles of government: protected rights and representative legislatures. These two principles greatly influenced the development of the United States and are important parts of the United States Constitution. Question number 1. What did the English colonists bring with them to the 13 colonies? They brought with them the ideas about government that had been in England and had been growing for a while. Number 2. What were the two main principles of government that were important to the English system? Number 1, protected rights, that we all have rights that must be protected. And number 2, the concept of representative legislatures, that there are a group of people that make the laws and those people represent the rest of the people. Protected rights. The colonists believed that government must respect civil liberties or rights. In fact, the protection of people's rights was a central idea in the English system of government. It first appeared in the Magna Carta, or Great Charter, which King John signed on June 15, 1215, and that document is pictured here on the right. This document gave English people protection against unjust treatment or punishment. For the English, even kings and queens were bound by the law. Question number 3. What did the colonists believe the government must do? They believed that the government must respect our civil liberties, which are our rights. Number 4. Why was the Magna Carta an important document in the history of the world? Well, because it appeared a long time ago, back in 1215. Yes, that's even before I was born. But what it said is that people are protected against unjust treatment or punishment. Not even kings or queens are above the law. And that is something that has stuck with governments like ours since, which is that concept that no one is above the law. Representative government. The English had a tradition of representative government in which people elect delegates to make laws and conduct government. The English Parliament was a representative assembly. It had the power to legislate or make laws. Parliament had two chambers or houses, the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Only the eldest sons of England's aristocracy, the upper ruling class, could sit in the House of Lords. The House of Commons included commoners, mostly merchants or property owners elected by other property owners. American legislatures grew in part from this English model. In the mid-1600s, Parliament and King James II began a struggle for power. In 1688, Parliament removed King James II from power and crowned William and Mary as the new rulers. William and Mary promised to govern England according to the, quote, statutes in Parliament agreed upon and the laws and customs of the same. The English called this peaceful transfer of power the Glorious Revolution. It brought a major change in the idea of government in England. From that time forward, no ruler would have more power than the legislature. Question number 5. What does representative government mean? It means a government in which the people elect others to make the laws and conduct the government, but they are elected or voted on by the people. Question 6. What was the English Parliament? The English Parliament was the representative assembly in England. They were the group that had the power to legislate or make laws. Question 7. Which group of people made up the members of the House of Lords? Well, those would be the people that were of the aristocracy. Those would be your upper ruling class, your very privileged and wealthy people. They got to sit in the House of Lords. Question 7. Which group of people made up the members of the House of Commons? That would be the commoners, so people that were, merchants or property owners. Now you might say, why does that matter? Well, when we took our system of government, we had two houses of government as well. The Senate, which is considered to be the upper house, or the House of Lords in the British case, and then our House of Representatives, which would be the House of Commons. And there are more representatives in the House of Representatives than there are in the Senate. So we definitely took a lot of those ideas when we made our government here in the United States. Question 8. Why was the Glorious Revolution an important moment in the history of the world? It was an idea that said that no ruler should have more power than the legislature. So it sort of took the idea of a leader of a country or a government and said, you don't have more power than the people in the legislative branch or the group of representatives that make laws. And that idea has stuck. The English Bill of Rights. To set clear limits on a ruler's powers, Parliament drew up the English Bill of Rights in 1689. The Bill of Rights stated that the ruler could not suspend Parliament's laws, impose taxes, or raise an army without Parliament's consent. Members of Parliament had to be freely elected. Citizens of England had the right to a fair trial by jury in court cases. The Bill of Rights also banned cruel and unusual punishments. Government in America. The 13 colonies began as either charter or proprietary colonies. Charter colonies were based on a charter, a grant of rights by the English monarch to a company. Massachusetts was a charter colony. Proprietary colonies were the property of an owner or group of owners. These proprietors ruled more or less as they wished. For example, they named their own governors and many other colonial officials. Pennsylvania was a proprietary colony. And now we can answer question number 9. What were 5 things the English Bill of Rights stated? Number 1, it said that the ruler could not suspend Parliament's laws. Number 2, the ruler could not impose taxes. And number 3, the ruler could not raise an army without Parliament's consent. So all those things had to be approved by Parliament. Number 4, those members of Parliament had to be freely elected. Number 5, the citizens of England had the right to a fair trial by jury in court cases. And 6 and 7, the Bill of Rights also said you couldn't use cruel punishment and you couldn't use unusual punishment. So these were many other protections in the English Bill of Rights. Some colonies later became royal colonies under direct English control. Virginia became the first royal colony in 1624. In a royal colony, Parliament appointed a governor and council known as the Upper House. The colonists selected an assembly or lower house. The governor and council usually did as the English king and Parliament told them. This often led to conflicts with the assembly. For example, colonists got angry when officials enforced taxes or trade laws. Not all colonists had a voice in government. In general, only white men who owned property could vote. Most women, indentured servants, landless poor, and African Americans could not vote. Still, compared to Europe, the share of the colonial population taking part in government was large. This training proved valuable when the colonies became independent. Local government in the colonies. Over time, townspeople began discussing local issues at town meetings. These developed into local governments, with landowners holding the right to vote and pass laws. Because colonists in many areas took part in local government, they developed a strong belief in their right to govern themselves. Town meetings helped set the stage for the American Revolution. And now we can answer a couple more questions. Question 10. Which group of people generally had the right to vote at that time? It would have been the white men who owned property. Number 11. Which groups of people were not allowed to vote? While most women couldn't vote, indentured servants couldn't vote, landless poor couldn't vote, and African Americans could not vote. Question 12. Over time, what did the townspeople in the colonies begin to develop? They began to develop a strong belief in their right to govern themselves, and that is key, and it helps to explain why we decided to get rid of the British government and have our own United States of America. English economic policies. Beginning in the 1600s, many European nations followed a theory known as mercantilism. Mercantilism holds that a country builds wealth and power by building its supplies of gold and silver. To achieve this goal, a country must export or sell to other countries more than it imports or buys from other countries. A country must also seek colonies, which could supply raw materials and serve as a market for exports. Question number 13. What was the theory of mercantilism? This was the economic theory that a country needed to build its wealth, its money, and power by increasing its supplies of gold and silver. And to do that, they needed to export or sell more than they imported or took in. And that leads us to questions 14 and 15. What is an import? Something that is an import is something that you buy from other countries. And 15, an export is something that you sell to other countries. So the idea in mercantilism is that you sell more to other people than you buy. If you do that, then you have a positive trade deficit and you are taking more money in than you are giving out. That is, in basics, the theory of mercantilism. Question 16. Due to this mercantilist policy, what did the English get from the American colonies? Well, they would get raw materials. The English followed a mercantilist policy. They looked to the American colonies for raw materials, such as tobacco, rice, indigo, wheat, lumber, fur, leather, fish, and whale products. They also wanted the colonists to buy English manufactured goods, such as tools, clothing, and furniture. To control this trade, England began passing a series of laws called Navigation Acts in the 1650s. The laws forced colonists to sell their raw materials to England even if they could get a better price elsewhere. Goods brought by the colonies from other countries in Europe had to go to England first and be taxed. All trade goods had to be carried on ships built in England or the colonies. The crews on the ships had to be English as well. And now, once again, question 16. Due to the mercantilist policy, what did the English get from the American colonies? Those raw materials, more specifically, that would be tobacco, rice, indigo, wheat, lumber, fur, leather, fish, and whale products. Question number 17. What did the English want the colonists to purchase from England? Well, they wanted the colonists to purchase the finished stuff, the manufactured goods. So they would take those raw materials and convert them into tools, clothing, furniture, and other manufactured goods. So in short, England wanted the American colonies to ship all their raw materials to England, at which point England would process those things and then sell them back to America for even higher prices. Question number 18. What were the Navigation Acts? The Navigation Acts were the laws that forced the colonists to sell their raw materials to England, even if they could get better prices elsewhere. It also made the colonists have to use ships that were built in England or the colonies, and the crews on the ships had to be English as well. So these were definitely some strong economic policies that some of the colonists started to not like. Colonial resistance. The colonists at first accepted the Navigation Acts because the laws guaranteed them a place to sell the raw materials. Later, the colonists came to resent or hate English restrictions. With their population growing, colonists wanted to manufacture their own goods rather than import them from England. They also wanted to sell their products to buyers other than England. Colonial merchants began smuggling or shipping goods without government permission or payment of taxes. Controls on trade would later cause conflict between the American colonies and England. Question 19. Why did the colonists eventually begin to resent the Navigation Acts? Well, they didn't like being told what to do. They realized they were being taken advantage of. Being told you can't sell these to other countries where you could get a better price, well, that's going to make you pretty upset. So they felt like the British government policies were unfairly punishing the people in the colonies. Question 20. What action did colonists take to show their displeasure with those Navigation Acts? Well, they started to get around the rules or the laws by smuggling. They would take their goods and ship them off to other places. Then they didn't have to pay the taxes. They could get better prices. And they felt like, you know what, that's what you get for making these unfair laws. Well, thank you for watching. Before we go today, of course, I have a meme. Everyone's reaction to the Navigation Acts. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.